Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to Brands on Brands. Today's topic is brand identity. Welcome to the show. I'm Brandon Birkmeyer, your personal branding coach, and I believe that building a brand that matters is the only way for a person to thrive tomorrow. And as I said, the topic is brand identity. The question we are trying to answer is, where does brand identity come from? That's right. Where does brand identity come from? And our case study for today is on Bruce Lee. That's right. Bruce Lee, the martial arts master, actor, and more. We're going to dive into a little bit of his story to help us answer that question. Where does brand identity come from? Now, the answers that typically come to mind, or that we've shared, I think even on previous episodes, is that brand identity usually is a sum of two things. It's a sum of your personal experiences, right? Your history, your background, the sum of the actions you've taken in your life, and your purpose, right? The thing that drives you, to some of your experiences and your purpose. That is what makes up your identity. But where do those things come from, right? If you go a little bit deeper and say, well, how does one come up with their purpose? And how do you take those experiences and come up with an identity, especially if you're early on in developing that and you have, not a lot of experiences yet? How does that turn into your brand identity? And I think this story I'm about to share with you of Bruce Lee helps demonstrate how that comes to life. Now, in the mid 60s, we're going to talk about when Bruce Lee was discovered, right? There's a lot that happened before that, a lot that happened after that. But there's a point where things started to change. And that is in the mid 1960s, where Bruce Lee was invited to do a demonstration at the Long Beach International's Karate Championship. He's invited to do a demonstration there. And in this 1 hour demonstration, he had a couple of signature moves. And from all accounts, this was a very exciting moment at the tournament, right? He delivered on the spot. And two of the things that he did, one was his now famous 2-finger push-up, right? Which not a lot of people had seen. And the second was his 1-inch punch, right? And this 1-inch punch, in that move, he demonstrated how so much power can be pushed into a very small movement. And it sent his volunteer demonstrator with this 1-inch punch. He sent this guy toppling over chairs, right, across the auditorium. And the crowd was amazed. And this became a catalyst for things that started to happen next. He got an invitation to get on a major film, which was I believe it was the Green Hornet TV series that followed, and other acting things, right? So there was a point in time where his experience and the things he was demonstrating and what was developing as his identity came to fruition, and he had an opportunity for exposure, right? Now, what I think was interesting is that most of the experiences of Bruce Lee were steeped in something that was foundational, right? They came from something that was not original. There were principles to the martial arts that he was studying, that he was developing. And then he started to interpret and express himself individually out of the forms that he had been studying. And his philosophy that came out of that was something that he expressed as being more simple. His core ideas were simplicity, it was directness, and personal freedom. And these more broad philosophies started to help him form his own brand of martial art that he then developed and expressed and shared with other people and became famous for. Now, what's important in this story is, as you look at what was already developing as his background and his experience, and what was already developing as his purpose and passion, the things he was spending all his time on, right, in this martial arts field, he said, okay, if I start to figure out what about this I like, what about this is important to me, and I express that, I share that, that's where his identity started to form. And I challenge you guys to think of it the same way for yourselves. If you look backwards at your experiences and you look at the things that drive you and your purpose, what from those things can you start to articulate as your own? And the way to get through that and to that is through self-expression. Self-expression is the answer to how do you develop your brand identity? Where does it come from? It comes from self-expression, right? You take all those experiences and then you start to interpret them and express them. And through that expression, you start to find your own voice. And it could be an actual physical voice, or it could be some other physical expression. In his martial art, it was actual physical action, right? But you taking some kind of action or expressing yourself in some way is going to help you get your voice out of you and start to interpret the things that you built your foundations on. They'll start to be interpreted and individualized and personalized towards your personal brand. So for me, there's a point in time where you start to see that this expression came to life for Bruce Lee and started to change the way people perceived him. There was an identifiable difference between him and everything else people had seen out there before. It all started with self-expression. Now, your personal experiences are obviously going to be very different than his, but taking those and applying them to your passion, the thing that you are continuously striving after, and identifying that, the mix of your self-expression plus your actions you are taking, you add those two things together, and suddenly you have a potent, individualized brand that is starting to help you define what you're about to other people. So I hope that lesson today from Bruce Lee, looking at how his expression of himself started to become a catalyst for what he became known for, helps you think about how you can apply that to yourself. And then ask yourself, what can you do today to express your beliefs, your perspective, your ideas about your experiences, about the topics that you're passionate about the purpose in your life, the thing you are striving for? How can you take those ideas and express your perspectives about them to start to develop your personal brand? That's what I got for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed the case study. And as always, keep tuning in and we'll catch you next time. Brands on Brands.